I tell you something. Well,
we're on
we'll
the
just
air
wait till
now?
the next break.
Okay,
Sure.
Okay.
Commercials,
Richard
the
Huss,
commercials just don't go long.
you have to be patient. You have to wait. We're going to read from Richard's piece in Foreign Affairs entitled, "Where to Go From Here? Rebooting American Foreign Policy." Do you really think it can be rebooted in the next 3.5 years?
Well, read ahead.
I'm just curious.
The strategic
All right,
focus.
you're really hopeful,
The
Richard.
strategic focus for U.S. foreign policy should be preservation and adaptation.
And adaptation, not disruption, so that the United States and those willing to work with it can better contend with the regional and even more the global challenges that increasingly define this era. The president's campaign slogan of America First was and is unfortunate. Thank you for saying that. American patriotism can be defined and operationalized in ways compatible with responsible global leadership. And figuring out how to do that from here on in is the Trump administration's central challenge. But Richard, discipline is needed for that to happen. I mean, this took many decades, as we know, with the best minds on this. And now we have this president tearing down our alliances and everything we've worked. Do you think it's possible to reboot?
And also listening to Steve Bannon on Article 5 when General Mattis, the best in the business, and General McMaster and Rex Tillerson say put this in. And at the last second, a guy who calls himself a Leninist who wants to destroy the world, you know, tear down government, gets him to strip that out.
Look, I argue we don't need a tear down, we need a renovation. I'm not predicting they're going to get it right. What I basically say, here's what they need to do in order for the United States to protect its interests in the world and for the world to basically not unravel. It's up to them. I don't have control of that. They're going to have to act with discipline, and they're going to have to recognize the important part of their inheritance. And sure, we need change in the world. I'm not arguing for a pure status quo, but there's important things like our alliance structure in Europe, like the world trading system and so forth. If they disrupt that, almost like healthcare, and they don't have anything to replace it with, they are going to create a world, not only where the world will do worse, but the United States will do worse. We can't build a giant moat around this country and insulate ourselves from a world that unravels.
So, you know, Rick, what continues to surprise me is when I talk to my friends, talk to my relatives, talk to Republicans that I've known through the years, they're not concerned about the foreign policy things that we're concerned about. They think that Europe has gotten a free ride for 50, 60 years. They think the United States has been the 911 for the world. They think Donald Trump's instincts are right. And I'm only bringing this up because we are in a bubble. We are concerned. But the Republicans and the conservatives I talk to, unless they're in the foreign policy establishment, they just don't seem to care, and they think his instincts are right.
Yeah, some of it's true, right? So about that the Europeans don't pay enough and NATO should be strong, et cetera, except Donald Trump went and undermined NATO from the very beginning. But the problem is the United States has a unique role in the world, and when we abrogate our leadership, we pay for it in blood.
No, I understand that, but this is, again, such a disconnect. How do you explain? The foreign policy part of it is what concerns me the most, other than his lack of respect for free speech and his lack of respect for an independent judiciary. Those are 1 and 2. But a close third is foreign policy. This really concerns me.
No, it is concerning.
But I will guarantee you 90% of the people who voted for me don't give a damn. And they're like, let Japan and let Germany start paying for their own.
Because they believe that things like NAFTA and the TPP that didn't go through was eventually going to hurt them. But the truth is, NAFTA overwhelmingly helped people. There are higher paying jobs in Indiana, Mike Pence's home state, than there were before NAFTA. And that goes, and then what we never see and we never talk about is the consumer side. If you want to pay $5,000 for television sets, then that's fine. We can do that. You can double everything in Walmart, and we can live in that kind of a world.
We never get that far, though.
But we're never going to get. But we are in a global. We're in a global economy, and two, if the United States doesn't lead in terms of protecting the safety and terrorism and sharing intelligence and all the rest of it, it is our allies who help protect us and keep us safe. And when those alliances are strong, and if they're weak, then things like ISIS fills the vacuum.
So, Nicole, I always use this example about how important allies are and sometimes even enemies. Right after 9/11,
relationships.
Who was a key partner of ours? Well, first of all, Well, the French were extraordinarily difficult in the Iraq War. They still helped us out as far as intel, completely professional. But even the Iranians, who have been our enemies since 1979, were helping us in Afghanistan. So it's hard to explain, I guess. But don't we have to do a better job? Don't politicians have to do a better job of explaining why pissing off Germany and France and everybody else is really going to come back and damage us when there's the next terror attack?
Yeah, and the irresponsible actor is Donald Trump. It's not his voters' fault for believing him. It's his fault for lying about the value of alliances. We're not in NATO because we give them something. We're in NATO because when we were attacked on 9/11, we're the only ones to take out from the bank of Article 5. We were the only ones to ask people to fight alongside our soldiers.
By the way, we didn't create NATO. Let me just say this, everybody at home. We didn't create NATO for Luxembourg. We didn't create NATO for every country across Europe. We created NATO for us.
Right.
We were being selfish.
We're the beneficiaries of NATO.
We are always the beneficiaries.
And we declared war on Afghanistan, and their sons and daughters went and died and fought alongside us in the coalition. So Donald Trump lies. Donald Trump lies about our alliances. He may not know, but Mattis should pull him in for tea and tell him. I mean, it is time.
Yes.
So I agree with you. Voters may not be upset about his foreign policy, but they should be, because he has lied to them about the purpose of our alliances. Aren't an act of charity on American,
right?
They're an act of national security. So the real disservice he's done is not just to his voters who've been scammed or conned. It's to the soldiers who rely on alliances so that they don't fight wars alone.
And General Mattis is the biggest believer in the importance of building alliances of anybody. And I'll tell you, I think I'm probably more conservative than most people when it comes to sort of the America First philosophy. I don't like that philosophy. But I remember in one of my first debates, one of my opponents said, we have a responsibility as citizens of the world to, and I just stopped. I said, not citizens of the world. We're citizens of the United States. We have one interest, and that's making this country stronger, safer, better. So, like I said, I don't want to be part of all of these alliances to help other people. I don't want to be in the Paris Accords to help the world, okay? I want to be in the Paris Accords because it helps America, because it's voluntary.
And the world.
It becomes voluntary, because we're going to need something from other countries at some point, and it is a give and take. It's very selfish, my view of the world. What's best for the United States? What makes the United States stronger? What makes us project our power across the globe in the safest, most efficient way?
Well, and you look at the way this president has approached NATO and the Paris Accords, and you feel that he doesn't have the same interest in
and we're weakened all across the board.
This entire mindset, which I think is wrong, is that it costs us more to lead in the world than it benefits us. And I look at the last 70 years and I go, this has been a stunning bargain. The United States has maintained stability and prosperity. Far more of the world is free than it ever was. Why? Because we did all this. And by the way, even now, we're spending at a rate, we can afford this, we're spending at a rate of GDP half the rate we spent during the Cold War, and we grew fantastically then. So we can and need to continue to lead, and again, as you said, we are the principal beneficiary of it.
Yeah.
So, but Donald Trump doesn't see it that way.
I don't know what list. I do not know what list Steve Bannon is reading that suggests that America is getting screwed, because you look at the world order that we created over the past 70 years after World War II. We're number one. We're the strongest economic power. We're the strongest military power. We've got the greatest soft power. We're number one across the board as far as power goes.
And influence.
And power and influence in all ways. And yet, Mika, they're suggesting that somehow we're like number 45 or something, and we've been scammed, and we've been no, we've done pretty well.
We've got a great return on investment, and that's what we should be saying to the American people. This has been a great investment, and we have benefited from it.
So you asked about what Steve Bannon's view is and what his approach is. Read about him. I'm not even going to say it because it'll sound snarky, but read about him. That's what you get.
I've just got to say, I think,
read his background.
You know, a lot of people have looked at us and said, well, you guys knew him for so long. Why are you so disappointed in him? Why are you so upset by what's been going on? I think so much of it has to do, I'll be honest with you, with the fact that you have a couple of people around him in a very dysfunctional White House, that he's listening to all the wrong things. He's listening to somebody that's saying tear down alliances built by the countries who sent their men to die as they were scaling the cliffs of Normandy, and spent the last 70 years by our side building a world structure that allows the United States to be the most powerful, the most economically driven, again, and the most influential across the globe. So why do you want to tear that down?
I don't think he understands, honestly. The president himself, I actually don't think he gets
Do you think he's torn it down?
Do I think who's torn it down?
Yes.
Trump?
Oh, no.
I mean, do you think it's destroyed, or do you think
no, no.
within repair? Where do you think it is, though?
Oh, no. America. I remember what my college professor told me when I was a huge Reagan fan. He just won 49 states. He's a dean of history, and he took me out to lunch. I got a scholarship. That's the first time that had ever happened in my life. And I sat down and I wanted to talk to him about Ronald Reagan because I was so excited about Reagan. And I said, "What do you think about Reagan? This is great, isn't it?" And he said, "I think America's strong enough to even survive 2 terms of Ronald Reagan." And I was heartbroken. But you know what? We're strong enough to survive 1 term.
But there will be damage done. And that's the part where I think you need to be more realistic.
But here's the deal. There will be damage done.
Not just going to survive.
But we have a 240-year-old brand. Yeah. And they know this is about Donald Trump. They know it's about an election that he lost by 3 million votes. And they've been through some pretty bad things dealing with the United States of America before. I mean, think back to 2003 and 2004. It's not as bad as it was when Chirac was taking money from the Iraqis. And then his foreign minister would go to the United Nations and undercut us. That was the low point. We survived that. What about Schroeder? We survived that.
I'm thinking this is worse, and I think you're wrong.
Thank you.
Richard's new piece is in Foreign Affairs magazine.
I'm with Mika.
Just ahead this morning.
I'm just saying we're resilient.
We'll survive.
Yeah.
We will survive.
It will be ugly, and there will be a lot of damage.
Will somebody cue up Lee Greenwood?
MSNBC's Steve Kornacki, the New York Times' Peter Baker join us.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.